Mabitac is a 5th-class municipality in the province of Laguna in the Philippines. It was an excellent hunting ground for wild game 3 centuries ago. Native hunters used numerous cave-in or trap-ins called bitag in the local dialect. Hence, the place was referred to as Mabitag, meaning a place with many traps. Mabitac is situated on the eastern side of the province of Laguna, 88 kilometers or 55 miles from Manila, using Rizal Province on a winding road of Manila East Road, and Antipolo City or 123 kilometers or 76 miles via the South Luzon Express, Calamba and Santa Cruz, Laguna. The first Spaniards who came to this place were the friars who established the first Spanish settlement in the area and began to Christianize the local population. The Spaniards, having difficulty in pronouncing the G consonant, called this place Mabitac whenever they mentioned this place. Eventually, the name found its way in the official record and maps of Laguna made by Spanish cartographers and mariners who charted the coastal areas of Laguna de Bay. This town was formerly a barrio of Siniloan, an immediate neighboring town. It became an independent municipality only in the year 1611, not by legislation, but by mutual agreement by and between the Spanish friars of both towns, who were then the influential ruling class. Mabitac was the site of a battle in the Philippine-American War, when on September 17, 1900, Filipinos under General Juan Cailles defeated an American force commanded by Colonel Benjamin F. Cheatham. The Japanese occupation of the Philippines occurred between 1942 and 1945 when Imperial Japan occupied the Commonwealth of the Philippines during World War II. The invasion of the Philippines started on December 8, 1941, 10 hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor. As at Pearl Harbor, American aircraft were severely damaged in the initial Japanese attack. Lacking air cover, the American Asiatic Fleet in the Philippines withdrew to Java on December 12, 1941. General Douglas MacArthur was ordered out, leaving his men at Corregidor on the night of March 11, 1942 for Australia, 4,000 kilometers away. The 76,000 starving and sick American and Filipino defenders in Bataan surrendered on April 9, 1942 and were forced to endure the infamous Bataan Death March, on which 7,000 to 10,000 died or were murdered. The 13,000 survivors on Corregidor surrendered on May 6. Japan occupied the Philippines for over 3 years until the surrender of Japan. A highly effective guerrilla campaign by the Philippine resistance forces controlled 60% of the islands, mostly jungle and mountain areas. MacArthur supplied them by submarine and sent reinforcement and officers. Filipinos remained loyal to the United States, partly because of the American guarantee of independence and also because the Japanese had pressed large numbers of Filipinos into work details and even put young Filipino women into brothels. General MacArthur kept his promise to return to the Philippines on October 20, 1944. The landings on the island of Leyte were accompanied by a force of 700 vessels and 174,000 men. Through December 1944, the islands of Leyte and Mindoro were cleared of Japanese soldiers. During the campaign, the Imperial Japanese Army conducted a suicidal defense of the islands. Cities such as Manila were reduced to rubble, Around 500,000 Filipinos died during the Japanese occupation period. In 1942, Japanese soldiers entered and occupied Mabitac. In 1945, the Philippine Commonwealth Army troops of the 4th, 42nd, and 43rd Infantry Division and 4th Constabulary Regiment of the Philippine Constabulary, together with the recognized guerrillas, defeated the Japanese Imperial forces during the Second Battle of Mabitag. Mabitag is politically subdivided into 15 barangays: Amuyong, Lambak, Lukong, Matalatala, Namuma, Numero, Paagahan, Bayanihan, Libis ng Nayon, Maligaya, Masikap, Pag-asa, Sinagtala, San Antonio, and San Miguel.